Hey everybody, it's Dr. Wellwood here at the Natural Health Center, and welcome to the office. Today on your daily dose, we're going to be talking a little bit about some studies that have just come out in 2017 and are also in pre-publication for 2018. So we're going to review a little bit about some dietary issues, some exercise issues, chiropractic, and basically lifestyle management. So one of the interesting things that I came up across is a new study on generalized back pain, and for those people with chronic pain syndromes. And we all know that if a person is in pain for a long period of time, that they become used to that pain, and oftentimes the pain literally becomes them, or they become the pain symptom. Now that's true for whether it's lower back pain or migraine headaches or multiple sclerosis, any of those types of conditions which affect a person for a long term. Not only is it a physically demanding issue, but then that physical becomes a mental, and it becomes taxing on the person, but also on their loved ones and their support system and their support mechanism. And a really great study just came out, and it showed that there's significant reduction in the amount of pain a person experiences is if they look at it a little bit differently and they understand it a little bit more. So basically, if a person has a lot of back pain, let's just say, because it's easier to go with that, the more that they're educated on what they can expect from that back pain from their physician, whether it's their medical provider or their chiropractic provider or their massage therapist or physical therapist, as long as they're educated on what they can expect as far as treatment and as far as what the person can experience along that way, and even a plain nose discussion about, hey, this is going to be going on for a very long time or even possibly your entire life, then that has actually been shown to significantly reduce the disability that's associated with that. And that just came out in December this month of 2017 in Aging Clinical and Experimental Research Journal. So something to be considered about and to look into for the future, especially for those of you who have chronic back pain. Now, another really cool study that just came out in 2017 November from the University of Illinois showed an interesting fact among New York grade schoolers. So, and that fact was that if the school system actually put water containers, those large office water containers, the jugs, office water dispensers, that's what it is. If they took and they put the water dispensers in the cafeteria while the children ate, there was actually a 3 times increase in water intake from the children, but they also found a clinically significant correlation between lunchtime water intake and the effects and occurrence of obesity later in life. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know how much that translates into adults, but I know in my practice, I'm always telling people that they need to increase their water intake because tissue tensile strength or tissue firmness and chronic pain is often associated with just dehydration, particularly in winter months like we're in right now. Water is just an absolute must. So this cool study showed that increasing water for at least grade schoolers during the daytime reduced their obesity occurrence. So that's pretty significant. Another study on exercise showed in the Journal of American Geriatric Society for November 2017 showed that just exercising 30 minutes a day increases the longevity of a life. Now, that doesn't mean you're going out there and pounding the weights. It doesn't mean you're pumping iron, you're not doing Krav Maga. It literally means 30 minutes of a brisk walk. And a brisk walk is typically a walk there you can still have a conversation with a person and maybe have a little bit of a bead of sweat. So you feel a little bit of exertion, your heart rate's just a teeny bit higher, but just 30 minutes a day actually significantly increases the person's longevity compared to other people. For the generation of myself who grew up with the beginning of the Atari, yeah, I'm dating myself here, but the generation where cable TV was kind of getting in there, we tended to sit around a lot more than the generation before us. In other words, for the people who are watching TV and the people who are playing video games, and even translating to the people who are doing a lot of desk work or administrative work, there's a new study that just came out in American Heart Association in November 2017 that showed there's a really good correlation for the amount of people or the amount of time that you spend in front of a television significantly increases the risk of what's called venous thrombosis. So that's basically blood clots going from your legs and going in your heart and lungs, and it causes about a 70% higher risk of this venous thrombosis if you watch TV. So, in other words, if you are going to watch TV, and if you do have a sedentary job, it is recommended that you get up regularly and you walk around to get the blood flow going. I think that's just common sense anyway. More and more nowadays, we're getting those standing desks that allow people to get up and move around. So that's a huge issue. And something's very preventable, by the way. So a really cool new study came out in the journal Appetite for January 2018 actually showed for people who are interested in knowing about their genetics and their ancestry, not everybody, but I know my wife and my family have actually looked into our genetic past because my wife suffers from multiple sclerosis. We're really interested in seeing how well that might be passed on. So we're really cognizant about how my kids actually eat and how they work. But off of that tangent, for the people who are interested in their genetic makeup, this really neat study just came out that shows that for people who actually find out about what their genes may predispose them to, whether it's Alzheimer's or rheumatoid arthritis or obesity or heart disease, there's actually a really good correlation between the amount of knowledge a person has on their genetic makeup and how much depression the person actually has. So in other words, by understanding what you are at risk for in the future actually has a significant effect on your health today. Now, that is hugely important because that switch from there, we call that allostatic load. That switch from, hey, I'm happy-go-lucky, I'm a 22 or 25-year-old person. Yeah, my mom has rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah, we've had breast cancer in the future. But that switch there, that knowing, tends to create depression, and that depression causes issues with cortisol levels, and cortisol levels have issues with inflammation, and inflammation in the end actually is what causes a lot of these issues. So it's a weird cycle that's going on there. So if you're interested in actually just kind of figuring out what your genetic code is and what you're at risk for in the future, be aware that if you find out, you might actually be causing it. It's like cause and effect. It's like those weird sci-fi movies. Did I cause myself to be born by going back in time and, having my parents meet up? So either way, so it's a little interesting dichotomy. We want to know what our genes are going to show us in the future, but in the end, knowing it might actually lead to the disease in the future. Kind of weird, right? So anyways, that was my daily dose. Sorry I went on along a little bit longer today, but there's a lot of interesting studies that I had to review with you guys. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video.